Okay, guys, I'm really excited to bring you this new series, which I'm going to be trying to release on each zip code in the markets that I cover. I want to break down what's going on in the housing market when it comes to properties for sale, properties for rents, and just actual data and market trends. There's so much talk right now in the news and the media that the market's crashing, that it's all hell broken loose. And I think that each market is so individual and so personalized. And the truth is, I really can't speak to markets across the country, markets that I'm not in every day, looking at new listings, looking at listings that are closing, writing offers on, representing sellers. So I want to talk about the Santa Barbara marketplace, the Goleta marketplace. I'm going to do Montecito Carp. And the market that I wanted to start off with first is the Mesa. I love the Mesa, 93109, right by the ocean, right by Mesa Lane, steps and the beach, place to surf with lazy acres. I love the Mesa, honestly. So I was like, let's just start with the Mesa. And I wanted to break down and use real rock solid stats, not just personal anecdotes, not just stories from friends, not just stories from my own transactions, but I want to break down some stats. So I want to dive in. Let's jump in right now with a screen share. And I wanted to talk about what's going on. So take a look here. I wanted to talk about stats and I wanted to use, obviously, Zillow and Redfin are the biggest real estate websites that average people who are searching for homes are using for. Obviously, the real estate agents in the community, we use the multiple listing service. But here's the thing about Zillow and Redfin. I think they're great tools. They're great resources. What they're not so good at is the estimate and the Zestimate and the Redfin estimate of individual homes. Well, sometimes they can get them pretty close to right. I've noticed on average, they're usually 7 to 10% off, and sometimes they're high, sometimes they're low. They're all algorithmic based. But the great thing about algorithms is when you take a larger sample size, like an entire zip code, you do see some pretty accurate data. So let's start off right now with what's going on in the Mesa 93109. On the average for price for a home right now, right over $2.2 million. But take a look, we're down almost 4% compared to the past year. One thing that I like about the Zillow Home Value Index is that they give, really clear, simple, easy to do statistics. They draw the map of exactly where you are. And then this is something that I really like. It's just a long-term home index for the exact market. It looks like their 1 year forecast, they predicted prices to be up 5.2%. And just take a look here long term. If you were to buy a house in the Mesa back in 2015, you would have paid on average $1.1 million or $1.2 million. And you can just track this and just look at the COVID spike. It's just insane to think about. Okay, there's 2020, there's pandemic, there's April of 2020, and boom, look at in May. What an insane run that this market has had. Anywhere else too, you can see that it was just unprecedented. The amount of cash buyers, the low interest rate inventory, people going for 20, 30 offers, some of our listings selling 500,000 over list price. I don't know whenever ever we'll see that again, honestly. That was an insane market, and it was obviously very fruitful if you were selling your house. But for people like myself who bought a house during the pandemic, people that were competing, it was a very difficult time. And right now what we're seeing when I'm writing offers right now, I just had a client beat out one other offer, and their offer was contingent on them selling their place. I had a listing that it took 21 days to get an offer, and we accepted it even though it's slightly below price. It's a different market right now. And you can see right here, that's 2022. That's when the interest rate hike started to squeeze right here. And boom, right away when the interest rates came up, we saw the market start to take a subtle, I wouldn't call that a crash, I would call that a correction. A crash would be the kind of the inverse of this run up. And right now where we're sitting, we're kind of back on the run up started to happen again, where we did start to see multiple offers. And that's why I think interest rates have now been hiked again. And a lot of people are looking at home payments with interest rate in the eights. This is showing other zip codes. We're going to dive into those later, but man, that's a great graph to look at if you're looking at long-term and predicting what's going to happen next. We're kind of coming up, but will it flatten out? Could it potentially fall even lower? Could it rebound? Let's see what Redfin has to say. So I don't know if maybe they're taking a slightly different sample set. Maybe they're also including condos. The median sales price is just a little bit lower, and they're down 1.2% year over year. Here is their chart as well. And this is a more zoomed in chart. This is a 3-year chart actually, but we can look at the 5-year, which is kind of what Zillow is showing as well. But yeah, just that big run up right here, that kind of showing it month by month. There's kind of like a more condensed version, and it has a lot, that exact same kind of spike during COVID. Let's take a look at the 3-year though. So what we're seeing, okay, this is the interest rate hikes started to happen in the summertime of last year. we saw an increase, and now we're kind of on a downtrend, and we're seeing down 1.2% year over year. I also like how, they have these sale to list price ratios, the homes sold above list price ratio. That's a cool statistic. How many homes are selling for above the asking price? And that's 7%. But like, a year or two ago, that was almost everything was selling above list price. And this is, you can sort by home type. Let's see. Okay, let's go into townhouses or condos at least. Let's see what condos. I'm not sure why it doesn't have that, but this is a good tool as well. Same thing, Redfin though, it also has that individual home analysis that, in my opinion, is not as accurate as the general data that they can provide. Let's go back to Zillow. This is an interesting tool to use. Let's take a look at the rental market, what's going on. This is also 93101. Median rent is high in Santa Barbara. It actually compared it to, I think you can scroll down, you'll see the average rent across the nation is like in the 2000s. And to rent, this is for a house in the Mesa, 6,200. And that's also probably including, I think, condos. It's expensive, but what we're seeing is month over month change down big, down 700, and year over year change. That's percentage wise, that's huge. The available rentals right now, the inventory is high for the rental market. What we're seeing also is with the crackdown of Airbnbs in the coastal zone, a lot of people are switching from Airbnb properties to long-term rentals, and that's kind of an influx in that property type. But what's interesting is this is the rental properties by price range. If you look in the Mesa, there's so few rental properties available until you go north of like $5,000 a month. And then there's a bunch. So what we're seeing, I've definitely noticed that from friends firsthand, people that are looking for kind of like an entry level option to rent, there definitely is not much to choose for, especially in the Mesa, which is super expensive. Median rent price over time, look at that run up. This is in the summertime of this year, had a big jump, and then boom, a swift decline. And that's also because a lot of people in the summertime are visiting Santa Barbara. So I think that has something to do with it. It's seasonal. But man, that's a steep decline in the median rent basically since the June of 2022 and June of 2023. These are kind of tracking that top line. This one I'm pointing out right now is 2022, where wow, the median rental price in June of 2022 was 14 grand. And so you can kind of see the seasonality, but it's down significantly compared to this year when interest rates are more higher, when the stock market's not doing as well. People are taking less vacations, they're less likely to splurge on a luxury rental, which honestly, anything in this price range, a lot of times they're kind of higher end rentals, or people are working remote or taking a break from where they're living to come enjoy the weather that we have here. Take a look at that. The median rent market versus the national average, basically 3 times, excuse my math, I'm not a good mathematician, 3 times the national average to rent a house in the Mesa versus the rest of the United States. But I mean, rent, that's, to me, if someone's asked me what's the median rent in the US, I actually would think it would be higher than 2,000, but I guess you can go to places and rent a nice house for less than that. I don't know if that's like just for 1-bedroom condos, 2-bedroom condos, or it's a house, but I would think the median rent across the nation would be more than that. I'd be curious if you're watching this, let me know how much you pay in rent. And so, yeah, basically this is a tool that you can use to track market data that honestly can be really valuable. I think Zillow and Redfin can be great tools. A lot of realtors say, oh, never use Zillow and Redfin. And the truth is, those are good tools to use if you use them in the right way. I just say, be careful if you own a house and you're banking that the Zillow's estimate is what it's going to sell for without actually getting an individualized consultation, who's someone who can look at the property, see what updates you've done, see the comps in the neighborhood, and make sure that it's not just an algorithmic based assumption. It's an important thing to really consider when you're thinking about selling your house. But hey, I would like to hear your thoughts too. Where do you think the market's going to go right now? I could see this kind of just leveling out, maybe having a stronger dip. The only reason I don't think we're going to see that reverse of this massive run up is because there's just not enough homes for sale. People have a lot of equity in their property. And while there are starting to be more debt collection in terms of credit cards, in terms of auto debt, we're not seeing the same type of home foreclosures and home debt. People have equity, people are locked in. It's not going to be 2008, but that's just my 2 cents. So this has been the Mesa market update. I'm going to try to do each individual market of the areas that I cover, try to do it often, try to do it monthly, and just give you some insight on what's going on in the market, what's actually happening, what are the statistics telling us. And hey, this is what I'm hearing, and this is what I'm seeing with my clients in the marketplace right now. If you want to sell your house, you have to be really realistic. And sometimes that even means that you're not going to make as much money as your neighbor did 6 months, 8 months, a year ago, sometimes even last month, depending on what your property's like, depending on your positioning. You have to really understand that the buyers are sensitive right now. They're going to be paying a lot if they're getting a loan. And even if they're not, if they're borrowing from their stock accounts, interest rates affects those types of borrowers too, that are borrowing from their stock accounts, oftentimes to transact in cash. People are sensitive right now to prices. And even if you're off by a little bit, you're gonna sit. And if you don't adjust quickly and then make a price improvement or rearrange your marketing positioning, you're not going to sell your house. On the buy side, here's what's important to consider. While there might not be a huge 20, 30, 40% discount on houses, right now you have way more leverage than you used to. You're able to get properties accepted under contract contingent, like my clients did in Goleta. You're also able to ask for requests for repairs and sometimes get that accepted depending on the positioning and what needs to be done. Because sellers right now understand that if you're under contract with them and they don't want to go back on the marketplace because the buyer pool is very sensitive. So I think it honestly just depends what your goals are, who you want to help you with a difficult situation like this. Reach out to a really expert team in a tough market like this. Who you work with matters more than ever. I hope this video brought you a little bit of insight and maybe some clarity or some understanding for what's going on in the market. Like I said, this is 93109. This is the Mesa. Each market, even here in Santa Barbara, is very individualized and different. So if you have questions about another market or a question about your own situation, I also have referral partners all across the nation who I can put you in touch with. So I hope you had a good day, enjoyed this video, got a little bit of value out of it. My name's Avi. I'm a realtor here in Santa Barbara. And until next time, make it a great day. See ya.